So have you ever come across some of your garden hoses to where they're just spraying water all over the place or just leaking all over the ground? I'm gonna show you how to fix it. It only takes about 3 to 5 minutes to make the repair, and it might cost like $2 to $5 in order to do so. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's go. All right, so for this fix, this male end here, it's obviously been smashed. I believe I probably ran over it with my truck. And so this happens on occasion, whether it's a truck or possibly even a lawnmower. Sometimes with lawnmowers, I've actually seen where you think you have enough clearance with the blades, and at the connection, you don't have enough clearance and you end up having to replace this due to it getting all beat up and damaged. So you can pick up this new male end in many places, your local home improvement store, and of course for all the stuff you'll see today, I'll have links down in the description down below as well. But these are very inexpensive. There's only 2 pieces to it, so it's really easy to do. So the first thing I'm gonna need to do is I'm gonna need to cut this end off. And I wanna make sure that I'm going to a nice part of the hose that doesn't have any damage on it. As you can see, just down from it a little ways, I've got some of that cracking going on. So I'm gonna end up making my cut just below where this cracking is to get back to a good surface of the hose. Now what I found to work really well for cutting this are some handheld gardening shears. Now if you don't have gardening shears, you can also use a pair of scissors. These don't work as well. They will definitely take a little bit longer to get through it, and it is a little bit more difficult, but I have used these before and they do work. And now you can see we've got a nice clean end here to attach our new male adapter to. Now on this particular one, it doesn't have it, but if you have a more expensive one or one that claims that it won't get all kinked up, more than likely when you cut this off, what you're gonna find is there's a little piece of rubber and a spline that runs all the way down the hose. That's what's adding the rigidity to the hose so that it doesn't kink up. If you do have that, you will have to cut that out to approximately about this far down the hose, which is probably about 1.5 inches or so. All right, so now we're ready to install the new male adapter. We'll just cut this little zip tie off. And now as you can see, we have 2 separate pieces here. So I'll quickly show you how to do this. So first thing I need to do is loosen these 2 screws on the clamping portion of this adapter. Now of course you can do this with a Phillips head screwdriver and it will work just fine. But if you got an impact driver or a drill, that will speed it up even more. All right, so now this clamp has plenty of space to slide to accommodate any hose that you might have. I have yet to find a hose that would not fit in this particular clamp. So the first thing we do is slide the clamp over the hose, and then we'll take the adapter piece and we're gonna push it down inside of the hose. Now I don't have to get the hose all the way up to the bottom part of this little collar here. This is definitely sufficient enough, and even if I didn't get it up this high, as long as the vast majority of the bottom part of this adapter is down inside of the hose, there really shouldn't be any issues. Also, I don't think I pointed out, we got a male adapter. Of course, they also make female adapters. So if your problem is on the female side, you can also do this. All right, so now I've got my adapter down inside of the hose. Now I'm gonna take the clamp and I'm gonna slide that up over the hose and get it just up to where the end of the hose is. And then once I've got it there, I'm just gonna tighten it down. All right, so there you go. It really is that easy to fix the ends of these hoses, and it probably took me about 2 minutes in order to do so. Hey, really quickly before I get into the next fix, if you're finding value in this video or you're finding it to at least be interesting, if you could do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button right down below. It really does help the video out to hopefully, like this hose, leak out to other people and hopefully be able to help them out as well. I really appreciate it. Let's get back into it. All right, so I'm just gonna start out by showing you a couple of ways in order to fix these cracks that are in the middle of the hose, because this in particular is incredibly common to happen to where it needs to be fixed or replaced. It's just over time with all the elements, it just wears down these outer jackets and then the hose itself to where we've got these holes here and the water is just able to pour out of the hose. So the first thing I want to do with this, with these 2 fixes, is I want to get back to some clean and good hose. So I need to cut this section out, however long the crack is, I need to cut that whole crack out to get back to good hose. Now, the least expensive option in order to connect these together is if you've got some 1/2-inch copper pipe, some scrap that you've got laying around your shop or your garage, this is going to be the cheapest way of then mending these back together, connecting them back together. If you don't have any copper pipe just laying around and you would like to have some for maybe future projects that you foresee, you can go pick these up at your local home improvement store, these short little sections, and they're not too terribly expensive. So what I do is I take my copper pipe, I take some pipe cutters, and I just go round and round, gradually making my way through the copper pipe. It does take a decent amount of revolutions with this particular pipe cutter, but it's pretty inexpensive, and by the time I'm done with it, it does make a nice clean cut. Now that I've got my pipe cut down to the length that I want, now I will take some hose clamps. These are number 6 hose clamps, and I'll just put those over each side of the hose. Now that those hose clamps are in place, now I'll take my pipe and I'll push them in to each side of the hose. And this slides in pretty easily. Now that I've got my copper pipe connecting these 2 pieces of hose, I'll take my hose clamps, put them over where the pipe is underneath of the hose, and then tighten them down. All right, so now that this is all tightened down, now the hoses can't be pulled apart, and with all that pressure coming from the hose clamps, pulling that hose down to that copper pipe underneath, it's also going to provide a watertight seal. So this is ready to be put back out into the yard and ready to water things. But another way of fixing this, if you don't already have that copper pipe laying around and you want something that's a little bit less expensive than going out and buying copper pipe, is you can pick these up right here. These are inline adapters. You can pick them up just about anywhere, and they're very inexpensive. And of course, you can see here, it already comes with what would basically be the copper. It's got some steps on it, which is going to help to connect to the hose, hold it in place really, really well. And of course, they already come with their own hose clamps. So let me show you really quickly how to install this. So again, I take my hose clamps and I put them on both sides of the hose. Then I take my inline adapter and I push them in to each side of the hose. Now this will be a little bit more difficult to push in to the hoses than the copper because of those different steps on the adapter itself. I do think that it's just slightly wider as well in areas, so this does make it a little bit more challenging than just the copper piece. All right, so obviously the more you can bring these hoses together up towards this collar here, the better, but that's about as far as these hoses are gonna go, at least for this size, on this piece here. So then, like in the last fix, I bring my hose clamps up to close to where the collar is or where the end of the hose is to then hold that hose down against that adapter nice and tight. And so there you go, we've got a nice tight seal here now. These 2 hoses are now connected together. They cannot be pulled apart, and this hose is ready to go. Also, if you like DIY videos like this, I'll post some links right over here to take you some other videos that you might find of interest. And of course, you can always visit the channel to find other videos I've done in the past. So I hope that you found this to be helpful. If you did, please do me a big favor, hit that thumbs up button right down below. And of course, if you have any questions or comments at all, you can leave those down in the comment section as well. And I'll catch you all in the next one. See ya.